Here we are for the first preaching of the Word. Not that it hasn't already been preached in different ways already here this morning, but wow. We wanted to do something that sets us up, I guess, in some ways is what makes us feel like that we are unique in who we are as C3 Church Devonport. And that in particular is that Sharon and I are both co-leaders here of C3 Church Devonport. And so therefore this morning we wanted to make a mark on that and share the pulpit together with a whole look this morning at the uniqueness that comes with following God. That the following God indeed is a unique journey. And if you would give him the uniqueness of following him in his unique style, which is outlined by the Bible, the Word of God, it's in that place that you'll find the uniqueness of you. It's when that you give yourself to following him with your all. Not one foot in the world, one foot in church. Both feet in. Everything in. It's in that place that you discover a wholeness, that you discover the uniqueness that God has created you to be. So I'm going to hand over to my beautiful wife who's going to start us off, and then I'll join in.
Awesome. I'm just looking at you all, taking it all in and hoping that I can preach. It's very emotional. It's very exciting. And so we'll see how we go. But just give yourselves a little pat on the back right now. Say, well done. Well done. We did this. We did this. I know it should be turned to your neighbour, but anyway. So this morning I'm going to start on just sharing a bit about why C3 in Devonport, and what a mark for our first service and to start the journey well. And I want to share on our uniqueness on being in this new space, in this incredible building, and what makes us as C3 so unique. Why did God bring C3 to this city, to this building? Let me start off by saying that one of our uniquenesses of our church is that it's co-led, as Pastor Brian just said. And both Brian and I minister together, we pastor together, we lead together. And I'm not just the pastor's wife, as that's kind of a normal model, I guess. But more often than not, churches are usually just led by the one. But Brian and I believe that the emphasis of Christ and the New Testament church and team model was both. Jesus had women all around him, Mary and Martha, just to mention a couple. They were regularly hanging out with Jesus and in his world and doing life with him and amongst it all. So we recognise that there's a difference between men and women, just like there's a difference between any two people. But we are all valued and we all have a gifting that God has given us. And Brian and I count it an absolute privilege and honour to co-lead and pastor you together. So why did God bring C3 to this city? And I'm not just talking, when I say C3, it's not just about Pastor Brian and myself. It's not just about our family. It's not just about the board. It's us as a whole people. We are C3. And this city needs us. It needs you. And I believe that we have, what C3 have, we bring something different than what others can bring, that no one else can bring. God needs you and I in this place, in this city, on the hill, to be a light to other people. I believe we've been called to reach a whole group of people that no one else can reach except us here at C3 Church Devonport. Who's with me today? Yeah. Awesome. So I want us to quickly look at a story in the Bible. Oops, I need my iPad, please, Carson. About a woman at the well and what happened to her. Thank you. I'm sure you're all very well aware about the Samaritan woman, but it's found in John chapter 4. We're reading from verse 5 to 30 today, when I can find it. Here we go. I'm reading the Passion Translation. Jesus arrived at the Samaritan village of Sychar, near the field that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Wearied by his long journey, he sat on the edge of Jacob's well and sent his disciples into the village to buy food, for it was already afternoon. Soon a Samaritan woman came to draw water. Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." I'm sure he used his manners, please. And she said, "Why would a Jewish man ask a Samaritan woman for a drink of water? For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans." Jesus replied, "If only you knew who I am and the gift that God wants to give you, you'd ask me for a drink and I would give you living water." And the woman replied, "But sir, you don't even have a bucket and the well is very deep. So where do you find this living water? Do you really think that they that you are greater than our ancestor Jacob, who dug this well and drank from it himself along with his children. Jesus answered, if you drink from Jacob's well, you'll be thirsty again. But if anyone drinks the living water I give them, they will never be thirsty again. For when you drink the water I give you, it becomes a gushing fountain of the Holy Spirit, flooding you with endless life. The woman replied, let me drink that water, so I'll never be thirsty again and won't have to come back here to draw water. And then Jesus goes on and says, go get your husband and bring him back. Oh, but I'm not worried. Married, the woman answered. That's true, Jesus said, for you've been married 5 times and now you're living with a man who's not your husband. You have told the truth. And the woman changed the subject. You must be a prophet. So tell me this, why do our fathers worship God on this nearby mountain? But your people teach that Jerusalem is the place where we must worship. Who is right? Jesus responded, believe me, dear woman, the time has come when you will worship the Father, neither on a mountain nor in Jerusalem, but in your heart. Your people don't really know the one they worship, but we Jews worship out of our experience, for it's from the Jews that salvation is available. I'm going to skip down to verse 25, and the woman said, this is all so confusing, but I do know that the Anointed One is coming, the true Messiah, and when he comes, he will tell us everything you need to know. And Jesus said, you don't have to wait any longer. The Anointed One is here speaking with you. I am the one you're looking for. At that moment, his disciples returned and were absolutely stunned to see Jesus speaking with a Samaritan woman, yet none of them dared ask him why or what they were discussing. All at once, the woman left her water jar, ran off to her village and told everyone, come and meet a man at the well who told me everything I've done. He could be the one we've been waiting for. Hear this. And the people came streaming out of the village to go and see Jesus. I love this story. It's incredible. There's so much in it. But I want to just highlight a few things here today. To fully grasp this story, the woman at the well, it's important for us to understand who the Samaritans were. They were a mixed group of people, mixed races, intermarried with others, and they were hated by the Jews because of their cultural mixing and because apparently they had their own version of the Bible and their own temple that they worshipped at. And so the Samaritan woman met Jesus. She faced prejudice from her own community, but then she meets someone who was willing to communicate with her. And she came to draw water at the hottest part of the day. Why? To avoid running into other people. Instead of the usual morning or evening times, because she was shunned. She was rejected by everyone around her. But Jesus knew her history and accepts her anyway and loves her and welcomes her. By Jesus reaching out to this Samaritan woman, he showed that the mission was to all people, not just the Jews. So after her encounter with Jesus, she goes back to her town, tells everyone about Jesus. Like an apostle, some people say she was actually became an apostle because she went and told others so that they became believers as well. And then they all came out of the village for themselves, and she convinced many people. In fact, she was possibly one of the first ones to start a revival in a town filled with rejected people. She changed a whole community because of an encounter with Jesus. So, from this story, Jesus at the well, we are following his example here at C3 Church Devonport. I love how welcoming we are of all people. We are one of the most eclectic group of people. We accept everyone, and this church is not an exclusive club. Have you figured that out yet? You're a bit quiet on me, church. Great. Don't get quiet. You know, you fit here. We have a space for you, regardless of your background, your nationality, your race, your job, what you wear, your income, whatever. You fit here. You belong here. We are a welcoming group of people. C3, you are welcome here. Jesus gave value to each and every person. And we see the church that we should be a people that give value to each and every one as well. Therefore, we will continue, we have done, and we will continue to treat everyone with great value. I love it. A lot of when we have guest speakers, everyone seems to comment on the fact that you're a really mixed bunch of people. And we love that. I think that is part of our DNA. It's part of our uniqueness here at C3 Church because we love one another. We welcome everyone. Everyone is accepted. Jesus hung out with all types of people. And so we are following his example in this story by doing life here in this city on a hill, reaching all sorts. Jesus hung out with the tax collectors, the fishermen, the doctors, the beggars, the women, the children. And I would encourage us to look out, go beyond these four walls. Let's be valuing people. Let's love people. Let's accept people. Let's welcome people as we continue to be a light on the hill. There's an incredible verse in Romans chapter 12, verse 10, and it says, "Love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honour." How do you outdo one another? I'm really competitive. So, let's be really competitive with showing honour, and let's outdo one another in, Pastor Brian loves to honour people and, do the whole honour thing. But, that's because we understand the value of honouring. And we would encourage us to continue to do that, to honour people, to love people, to accept people. So can I encourage us? Let's continue to honour people, one another. Let's continue to trust people well. And because of this honour culture, this eclectic group of people here known as C3 can work together. We fit together and we will continue to grow. We are a people church of one heart, one mind. We are a transforming church, and we are called to reach people beyond, as I said earlier, these four walls. This is not a limitation. We will not be limited or bound by the four walls in this place. We have a whole community to reach. We can run multiple services. We've got space over in the hall. I don't know. Let's be thinking outside the box. Let's continue to invite. Let's continue to love one another, because we will not be limited for what God has got in plan and place for us to do. Is that cool? Awesome. Another part of our loving people, of our valuing one another, is we outwork it in our connect groups. Connect groups is one of our unique, well, it's probably not really unique, but how we're running it and what we're seeing the response from is quite unique. And we see this outworked in our loving people, in valuing people. Connect groups, we love each other. We care for each other. We do life with each other. And I'm amazed. You know, the average church has 70% of their congregation in connect groups. We're at about 85%. No? Yes. Give or take a few numbers, clearly. But we value connect groups here. And we want to see connect groups to continue to grow and thrive and be part of our C3 uniqueness, City on a Hill. Can I just take a moment in closing to just declare over connect groups that growth is coming. I believe connect groups are going to double. We need double the amount of connect group leaders. We have got so many people to reach. So I speak into, if you're a connect group leader today, I speak into you and I say to you, in Jesus' mighty name, think bigger. Start raising, start training, because we have not seen anything yet. God is at work and He's going to use this to draw people into the house to feel cared for, to feel valued, to feel loved. We are so excited about what's going to happen and what takes place as we start our journey here at 45A Still Street, the light on a hill. Come on, can we give God a praise for what He's doing? Thank you, Jesus.
Amazing, honey. Everyone say, she's amazing. And then say, love God. Seek Him first. Trust Him with my all. Very good. I just want to take a few minutes to again look at when we give our uniqueness to following Him in His uniqueness, in the way He does things, in the way that it then has an outworking, that it transforms us. Proverbs chapter 3, 5 and 6 says this: trust in and rely confidently on the Lord with all. Everyone say all. With all your heart. And do not rely on your own insight or understanding. Now, I need to say that again. Do not rely on your own insight or understanding, but in all your ways know and acknowledge Him and recognize Him, and He will make your path straight and smooth, removing obstacles that block your way. I wonder how many stories could be told within just this room of the providence of God, of what happens when we trust Him in the midst of when things aren't working, of the things that we find out that as we continue to follow him, that we see work out for us. I wonder how many stories could be found in this room. So the journey of love God first, a life sold out to him, will certainly over time be filled with stories that can only be explained as unique, as only God, as not a coincidence, but a God incident. I have discovered that over and over and over again in reading the Word of God and through personal experience, that God likes to reveal himself big. He likes to show off. He likes to demonstrate that he's been at work the whole time. The difficulty, though, with this premise is that you have to hang on long enough to see God do exactly that. You have to hold on for the ride, because there's no doubts about it. Following God can be tough because you can face many moments that you don't understand. Like, why is it not working the way that I thought it's supposed to work right now? Why does it seem to be working better for others and not so much for me? Why are other people in a good season and not I? I wonder how many times, again, for us, if we were to be honest, that's happened to you. I can now tell you, for me, it's happened lots. It's why I've given time to this verse. It's why I've given attention to it over the years of my life, to trust in the Lord. Don't worry. Don't let thoughts spiral out of control. Don't let nervousness of a feared outcome take over. Not to rely on my own understanding. Not to rely on my need to know why. But to trust in the Lord with all my heart. For he will direct my path. Everyone say, trust in the Lord with all my heart. The journey of buying this building. You've already heard me talk about the divine circumstances that we went through of the other one being sold, and that we arrived at the right time with the previous owners of this building. In fact, our timing of arriving here at this building with the owners was to the point where the actual owner told us that very night that they were preparing to put an expression of interest onto Facebook for this site that would have gone out into the community. And from what we've already discovered, there certainly would have been other interested parties. But because, again, of the way God works, we just happened to arrive in the right place at the right time, having the right conversation that opened the door for God's providence to be at work so that we could buy this space. Now, as you would all understand, it's one thing to get an agreement to buy a place, but then you actually have to get contracts in place. I'm assuming, who's here had to deal with a contract before? Lease, purchasing a house, renting, whatever. Now, come on, raise your hand. That's you. Raising right up. Yeah, cool. So it looks like most of us. And if there's anything that you know about a lease or a rent contract, it has time limits on it. Time frames. Oh, God, time frames. So, obviously for us to buy this building, we had to go about securing a loan and entering into a contract. So I chose to do something in following on with the advice that we get given to us, to grow in my leadership skills and delegated responsibilities as much as possible to others people's strengths. Building contracts, loans with banks, managing projects of buildings, yada, yada, yada. Not my strength. But there's some people out there who love it. And we were very blessed with someone amongst our networks. So see, look, this is where my strengths lie. My strengths are in network building. I build networks with people and discover that I'm then connected to experts, people who are better things than I am. And so then I asked them about how they could potentially help. And so I delegated through this process to other people's strengths. But you know the one thing that happens when you delegate something to someone else? You lose control. You're no longer in control of what's happening or the pace of what's happening. You're not necessarily in control of all the details of how it's working. In fact, half the time you don't even know if it is working. So someone else was doing all the work on our behalf with the bank. Oh, which again was a miracle in itself. As a church, apparently and normally banks won't lend to a church. We got one of the big four to lend us a loan. That's a big deal from what I've been told. So again, we had someone on our behalf, and I made a decision. I'm not taking back control, even though doorways were opened, even though networks were open to have direct contact with the bank. So I still asked questions, but tried to keep confusion minimal by staying out of the way as much as I could. Because even just the contract story alone. So for those of members on the board, they would know this story very well. At one moment, we had a loan. Then we didn't have a loan. At one moment, we had a loan. And then the next minute, we weren't sure if we had a loan. At one moment, we had all sorts of contact happening. And then all of a sudden, it went quiet for like nearly 2 to 3 weeks. And when you've got a deadline, who knows that's not a good thing? So we were trying to get in touch with the bank. We had all sorts of things were going on and on and on, to the point where we came to that point where a contract deadline came. Guess when the contract deadline came? Right in the middle of when we couldn't get in touch with the bank. And so there was a little mix of nervousness in the moment, because what obviously can happen, if for any of you have ever bought a house and if it's got to that point where a contract deadline faced, the other party has the right to pull out of the contract. Who knows that? Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Needless to say, at that moment when we're making the phone call to the lawyers and whatever else to go, will these guys stay in the contract? Will they stay committed to the sale of this premise? Every bit of spiraling thought wants to go crazy. Every worry wants to go weird. But again, everyone say, trust in the Lord with all your heart. So whenever your brain starts to spiral, whenever you notice it start to spiraling, as we've learned in our Winning the War on Your Mind with our recent Connect Group series, when that's happening, that's the moment where you take control, so to speak, take every thought captive to make it obedient to Christ, to not worry, but to trust in the Lord. Oh, you're getting it. To trust in, everyone come on, say it. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Everyone put your hand on your chest. I know we do this a little bit with other things, but with all your heart. The heart part, okay? With all your heart, with all your feelings, your emotions, the parts that wants to run away and get all upset and whatever. Trust in the Lord with all my heart. Breathe. Then guess what happened after that? Another deadline came around. Because I think we got to the point where it's deadlines every 2 weeks for a little while, I think initially. That's about right, getting the nod from one of the board members. Yes, good. But the first couple of times was every 2 weeks. We'd hit a deadline. And then guess what? We still didn't have a secured loan. Then another deadline came. And guess what? We still didn't have a secured loan. Smart young man in the front, obviously. And then not only was it fortnightly, but it went back to weekly. Every week there was a deadline. And guess what? We'd get to a weekly deadline, and guess what would happen? We still didn't have a loan from the bank. Now, I'm just wondering, how many of you out there right now would be going like, panic! This building's got great acoustics. Have you noticed that so far? I don't even need a microphone to sound loud. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. This went on for 3 months. From the first initial deadline of contract to the date that we finally got the loan through, keys picked up 3 months later on May 18th. Now remember, God is good all the time. So let me tell you now some of the rest of this part of the story. Well, let me actually ask you something first. You see, because I'm not sure how long you've been trusting God for something that's gone on in your life. And the thing about trusting God is it's difficult to put a time frame on it. We were given one. And thankfully, even though it went through multiple occasions of being able to the contract no longer, God was still faithful. But I wonder what you're trusting Him for right now. I want to ask you and tell you, please don't give up. Please don't stop trusting the Lord. It's one of the reasons that, again, that we so believe in not church as just a Sunday component. You know, I've been, again, as a senior pastor, I get to listen to multiple stories of what's happening in other places. And I want to tell you that, as much as this moment is important, even for the next hour, as soon as this service is finished, is just as important. You hanging around with us, it's why when you get to leave this space and go from this space to go over into the hall that we've now decked out and beautified and made it a place for you to hang out in, we did that on purpose because we believe that church is not just this moment, we are the church. It's our connecting with each other, it's our loving on each other, it's our walking together with each other. It's why we believe in connect groups. If you're not yet in a connect group, it's a small group within the life of the church where you come together and you get to talk at a more intimate level, a more question level, where you can question and answer, all those sort of things. Because the journey of trusting the Lord is not just meant to be done alone, it's meant to be done together. It's how when we are weak, He is strong. And the way sometimes that He is strong is through a brother or a sister who stands beside you and walks with you. So if there's something right now that you're trusting the Lord for, I want to ask you and plead with you again, hold on. Stay in the race. Don't give up, and you will see the goodness, the providence of God at work. Could I please have the band come forward again, please? So look, there are moments that happen in my life where I sometimes wonder if I still have a brain. I'm sure that's never happened to any of you out there, has it? Never. Last Sunday, we were having our last, obviously, meeting over in the other building, the Fenton Street site. And we always have a prayer meeting before the service starts. And Carol, I think, was leading the prayer meeting, and she asked us to get together in pairs. And I was paired off with Dan West, who unfortunately can't be here today. Daniel West, Chris Atchison, and Antonia. They send you their apologies. They would love to be here, but we'd sent them just this last week to Sydney for an express conference, which is a leadership intensive for those who are wanting to continue to strengthen their leadership abilities and church leading, etc. And if you've been obviously watching the news, that means that unfortunately they were in an area where they now have to be in quarantine for a couple of weeks, which is obviously, again, they send their apologies and their love. And we wave to everybody. If you get a chance to come in front of the camera and just wave at them. But I was praying with Daniel West. And Daniel West prayed this incredible prayer that just made me go like, of course God was working. And he prayed this prayer along the lines of this: God, we thank you for the frustration. What? What do you mean we thank you for the frustration? Whoever wants to thank God for the frustration, hey, let's just know. But he prays this incredible prayer. He says, God, we thank you for the frustration of how long the contracts took. Because of the time frame those contracts took, it meant that you have now revealed that we stand in here today, that the timing of the contracts taking its time, the short amount of time that it took an amazing group of people to prepare this center, means that we stand here today on the same weekend as a foundation stone was laid for the creation of this building, June 27, 1931. 90 years ago to the date, we are holding our first service, and the same thing as a date was laid for this foundation stone. Come on, everybody, let's give the Lord a praise offering. The way He likes to show off, the way He likes to display Himself, that He says, come on, I'll show you I was in this. I'll show you I was you are where you're meant to be. I will show you that I was directing you, leading you, guiding you. Even when you felt like it was all out of control, I was in control. Everybody say after me, trust in the Lord with all your. Come on, let's stand. Can I just still quiet, just cross this room just for a moment. But just while you're standing, we're going to sing one more song in just a moment to dedicate again in the sense of this whole this whole weekend, so to speak, this Sunday to Him. I love the life of following Him. I love the life that, there are things that I can't work out, that I can't understand, and finding myself in the middle of them and having to go, but I will trust in the Lord with all my heart. Because I know somewhere on the way, there is something that's about to work. There is something that's going to break out. You see, Matthew 16:25 says this, that he or she who loses his life for my sake will actually find it. That lose it is not necessarily talking about your death in a physical form. It's talking about a spiritual death. Or I say the death of a will that says, Lord, no longer my way, but your way. No longer what I think how things should work, but God, I trust in how you say things will work. God, no longer my way about following whatever I want to do or whatever I feel to do, but God, your way in what your word says to do. That's the day of being born again. That's the day of giving your life to Christ, when it's no longer my way, but it's His way. And I want to commend to every one of you the life of the providence of seeing God work again and again and again comes as we take hold of a journey of following Him with our all. Everyone again say, all. Common theme you're going to hear over and over again. So could I just ask for every eye closed across this room right now? And maybe today you either need to start the journey of all or recommit your life to the journey of all. I'm asking you today, maybe you need to become a Christian. Maybe you've not yet said yes to saying, Jesus, I'm going to follow you. I get it. I'm going to follow how you say to do life. I'm going to give my heart, so to speak, to you to trust the Lord. Or maybe today, you need to rededicate to the all factor, not just the part factor. But today that you would give your whole self. Because I'm telling you, as you give your whole self, it's when you find the uniqueness of yourself. We may lose your life, but Jesus says, but it's in your losing it that you will find it. I'm so thankful for the day that He stepped into my world and asked me to follow Him with my all. No turning back. Hey, thank you for joining us in the experience that we call C3. Maybe today you've made a decision to follow Christ, to become a believer, to become a Christian. If that's you, we would love it if you would just do one more thing for us before this service is out. And that is to go to www.c3churchdevonport.com/online. It'll be appearing on the screen. Yeah. If you could go to that link and click the button that says take the next step. We would love it if you would fill out your contact details there. And one of us will be in contact with you because we would love to pray with you, answer any questions you might have, and to encourage you, though, in this incredible life-changing decision that we believe is one of the greatest decisions that you can make on this side of heaven.
Yeah, absolutely. And we would love for you to feel like you belong in a place where that's watching us online or in a service. So we would love you to jump on, again, that same website, and you can choose Get Connected, and we will be able to give you some more details on how you feel like you can belong, because we really believe that there's a place for everyone where they fit and where they belong. And maybe you've got any other questions regarding C3, you can find links there where you can send us in your questions and ask for more information.
Even make a prayer request.
Yeah.
Hey, if maybe you're watching here today and you're actually someone who lives within driving distance of Devonport, we would love to invite you to come and actually join us here in our physical location here every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. You are more than welcome to come and connect with us. At this stage, we still do ask you to register your intention to come. It's just what the government is still asking us to do. But we would love to invite you that you might come and experience what we call the C3 tribe, the C3 family. So thank you again for joining with us today. God bless on whatever it is that you're doing this week. See you next week.
Awesome. Bye.